I guess I see this also like as some sort of like performance for the camera.
For example, in my performance on Wednesday, it was this what I was trying to do. Like it's this generative motor of like I'm not able to say those sentences, gather those words in that way if I'm not performing. Is that a nice place to start talking about? Like it's also this like what's the threshold for you to like go into that space or feel comfortable in the space? Because we can enter it on command. But it's different if it's like nice being in there.
Like I feel like places like social media or the stage or, you know, the screen, the scene, I think they're in a lot of ways much more authentic spaces than, let's say, a group conversation. You can do so much less explaining, kind of saving yourself and being like, oh, actually what I mean is. And I feel like what I do as a performer is constantly reminding the audience of the negotiation that is going on by actually bringing those kind of intimate ways of communicating onto this kind of artificial stage and saying like, sorry, that's not what I want to talk about. It's actually something else. Yeah, bringing this sort of the way we talk to each other, you know, in a non-performative setting, bringing that energy on stage, but then also taking it back and being like, no, actually, I will not do any explaining. You have to figure it out. This is theater, this is art or something. I guess you could say that it's about control. I mean, I'm setting the stage, or I'm choosing to film something. We're choosing to film something. So you do the framing yourself, which you can't really do in a like IRL social situation. If you do, you're like a horrible person.
Yeah. Like if you go in and do the same at a dinner party, you're this obscene person who's like just in your own world, which...
And this is what I felt on Wednesday. I felt like it's a dinner party and I was making a big fuss of like taking everyone's attention. The right thing to do would have been actually to not perform and just be like, hi guys. On Wednesday, I just couldn't decide whether I'm performing or whether I'm hosting. And of course, like I can imagine people who don't perform, they'll hear this and be like, what are you crying about? Like that's nothing, that's so small. And I can see that and I understand that. But if you do perform, if you do performances for your life's work, as your practice, and talk and try to do something that is intimate, then you know that it's very draining. If I have a 7 p.m. performance, that means that the whole day has to be completely dedicated to getting yourself into a space where you can do this push and pull of like being intimate, being performative. For a long time, I didn't allow for that. I was like, no, it's just whatever. It's this bullshit thing I do. I can just go there like 15 minutes before, have a cigarette, walk on stage. And it almost kind of killed me, you know, that I didn't respect the demands of the stage.
I also had that on Wednesday. It was like, then I was a host, then suddenly I was performing. And then when I was done performing, I turned around and then I had to be a host again. Because I actually didn't want to leave my stage or the stage I had created.
Yeah.
I wanted to leave as an object, the object I had staged myself to be in that situation. In that situation, I was a talking sculpture, something you could look at, relate to. But when you're a host, you're somebody in relation and with the control of, you know, the entire program, the evening you're a part of. Like, it's two very different things. I get very embarrassed because, you know, there's a part of me that has this urge to perform and be in front. There's a part of me who needs to do that, to like feel authentic and feel like I'm giving something back to the world. But, you know, then afterwards it's like, you know, you get this feeling of having stood in front of 100 people butt naked and reveal some kind of truth about yourself that you actually don't know how they're going to handle. The other part of it is the expectation to, when you do that, people are like, oh, but you can snap in and out of that. You can give us that all the time. You must be this person I am when I'm performing all the time. And I'm not. Like at dinner parties, I often have a very hard time as a guest and starting conversations because I feel like there is an expectancy to me being able to perform like that, because that's what I do in my work. I thought there was something interesting here that happened on this paper we wrote together. Scene is in a stage, and then we wrote screen. I thought this was genius. Then you wrote scene, just like as in being seen. And I think a lot about this, like what is happening in the moment? What are we seeing? What are we doing? There's, of course, the awareness of staging something in the moment. But also, you can talk about the screen as the documentation of a work, but you can also talk about that fourth wall that will be there, and your skin being that screen that people project something onto.
Yeah, showing an image, showing moving images in a room, there's an easiness to that you really don't get with the stage. Like if I'm showing an image of myself naked, everybody understands that it's vastly different from being in a room naked. I'm thinking about this performance I did called Empty Stage in Helsinki last year. There's a scene where I'm talking about how my body, this body, carries so much meaning out there, like outside the theater, outside the stage. It's tiring to be a political body. But then on stage, I actually want the opposite. I want to be sort of non-political, not apolitical, but non-political, sort of whatever bodies were before language. Since that's my stage, you were talking about like social situations earlier. I think on a stage, you set the social, like you create the social. It's under your terms. And I think as an audience member, I like it. It's this like top-bottom relationship. I'm happy to be the bottom tonight. I've chosen to be passive.
Yeah, to be receiving.
To be receiving. I naively believe that by just saying that my body means nothing, it actually happens. But I did realize that that's not how it works. I can't just like... But there was like a lot of this conjuring of trying to make the audience see nothing on stage, which is obviously very influenced by Beckett. Also, we didn't have a really big number of audience, so there's 15 people in the audience, and I feel like I'm at a birthday party, taking too much attention. I was becoming a host again, and so it's this whole thing.
If you have planned to do this kind of spectacular act as getting naked on stage, now this will happen, and then when you have done it a couple of times, it doesn't get as exciting to do anymore. At least for me, when I do things, the more things I do them, the more like thought out it is. And then it becomes more a gimmick than like this gesture of improvisation, or where it's like, I'm giving you this opportunity to like see this. Then it becomes like much more as another wheel in the machine to make the thing work. And it also gives a lot of power back to just be like, actually, you know what? They're not gonna get it.
Yeah.
I feel like as a performer, being able to say that, and then they'll get this other thing,
Yeah.
It's still very generous.
I did a lot of this, like referring to the previous performances as I went on with the 10 performances. So I would say like, I would usually get naked around this time in the performance, but like, you don't deserve it. You haven't worked for it. So there's like this like femme energy of like, girls, I can't see you seeing me naked. Like,
No.
I can't see it happening. You're not special. I'm not special. I'm just a body on a stage. In a month's time, some other bodies will be on this stage. Again, like this push and pull, giving people this reading instruction. And I would say stuff like, oh, I live on this stage. Like, you'll go home, but I'll stay here. So it wasn't really my body. It was this body, this theatrical body, this performance body, which is kind of what you were saying about your Wednesday performance, that you become a sculpture. Because I really think it's never about me when I'm performing. It could be anyone. People just want the skin. They want the screen,
You become that image that is recorded by the people who have seen it. I'm gonna call it a strategy to like say, oh, you're not getting this, but you're getting this. Is a great way to kind of outline the work is that there is a program within this work being improvised or being happening every day, differently every time. And you go into the heart of that realness of the stage that, everybody who goes to the theater is there to see. I've been working at a theater for 10 years now as a host and seeing so many plays like over and over again. People react always the best to when a mistake happens on the stage and something that wasn't supposed to happen happens, because then people, you know, they wake up, they snap out of whatever story that is, to be like, oh, this is actually real and it's happening right now, you know.
So people want that authentic moment.
People want that.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about the kind of, the things you've seen during the day that can truly range from like torture to funny videos or, whatever.
You know, it's funny because the theater was once provided this window into a fiction where things could be another way and where there was this fantasy or like could propose how things were done other places. Now it actually proposes something that's very real because you have to sit down and witness something happening in front of you. And suddenly we experience that we have to sit and watch this image in the way like reality demands us to watch things. So there's just another relation to what the function of art is and why it is important and why it is important for us to go to these things as receivers, and why it is important and political to do this work, I think, as a performer. Like, why these things should be provided, why is it important these things are happening.
I had this conversation often when I teach. The student might say, like, why would I do art in this situation? And like, what's going on? And usually my answer is that, well, don't. If you feel like you're needed elsewhere, go there. You have to live with the fact that even with everything that's happening, you choose to spend time doing this performance thing. And you have to be able to carry it and be like, yeah, I am actively choosing something that is away from me doing something else. There's a bit of like white savior complex in that, oh, the world is just waiting for me to decide in which way I will save the world. They're just waiting. Everyone's just waiting for me to come up with a decision. But that's not how it goes. Nobody's waiting for you.
But in this way, as an artist, it's totally true. You have to be an idealist and believe in these things and believe that that matters and that what you give out matters to those who see it, because otherwise you just get very sad and hopeless, you know.
Could we like look at if you have the paper that you did, this nice drawing that you did with all the words?
Yeah. So I work with language in this way where I try really to work with the material of language and the set expectations we have to it, like being a tool for communication and like accumulating knowledge and like writing science with language or like whatever. Yeah. Where William Burroughs writes in The Electronic Revolution that language is a virus and that we have to, you know, go against what language wants us to do, because language forces us to deal with reality in this way where everything is named. And that's also why I told the story of Ursula Le Guin called She Unnames Them, where she takes all the names away from the animals and living beings in the world and kind of gives them back to the man, and she gives her own name back. In that way, like, sets the world free from what man has given it, that is language. And as this counteract to, like, you know, the story in the Bible where Adam gives all the animals names and yada yada. I have been using language in my performance in this like scattered ways of making images that are very easy, make sense, like use words that are like very relatable. We often very quickly make an image when we hear a word like a wave or a fool or there's a star. Then we have that image. But then when you then start putting the words in relation with other words and in a conversational modus, you have to deal with that it makes sense and doesn't, and that language is kind of used against itself. So suddenly you have to be active within that act. I guess I'm trying to keep you as a receiver in this state of negotiation. Like, what does it mean in the world to like navigate with these images, wanting to make sense of things that clearly doesn't make sense, but are so easy to make sense of. So on the performance, it was about the now, which is like the center word in this map. There's a now, there's a now, another now, there's another now, maybe another now, maybe another now, maybe another now. And if they go loose, maybe we can use them, to create a line in the mind. And if I do it right, will they be like, drops in the ocean? Will I create that motion, that create waves, that create tears in your mind? That create tears in your mind if I do it right, if I choose to do it right. Maybe with that motion I can start to ooze, I can start to tear the fabric of reality, tear, the screen, tear, and, make things fluid, make things into a soup, make that soup the scene where it's just a sheer mass of, tears and oozing, and it's nothing. It means nothing, but it's still my body saying these things. And maybe I act like a fool. Maybe I want to flee the situation because it feels very wrong to do it. But it's like walking up a staircase. That now is the staircase, steps on it to another. And you have to look at this as a tool and have an intention. And that's exciting. But it's exciting, never know where I'm going to go or what images I'm gonna create. Once you have worked with this map for a couple of times, you start to get to know it, and then you'll have to create a new map.
A new map. By doing it, I think you also claimed authorship of this drawing, of this map. I certainly wouldn't do it now after you, because just like how people, when you perform in a non-stage space, like a gallery or on the street or something, people instinctively will give you some space and will usually respect your space. And if they walk through your space, they are intentionally trying to not hurt you, but sort of dismiss you. But it will also feel like a dismissive act for me to start meditate on these words. It's such a beautiful drawing, because it is exactly this, how a drawing can be a performance, or how a drawing can have this certain quality of time. It will activate you. I mean, you can say that of any painting, any drawing. You do start to if it speaks to you, then you start to become engaged with it.
Yeah.
And you start to narrate it in your head and maybe look at different angles, use your body. It's not neutral. It's not like a Google Docs or something where hey, here are some words with Helvetica font or something. It's extremely personal and kind of intimate, like how you have the heart next to rhythmic and flow, and soon you start to imagine why you put that there. Not to find an explanation, but just it just sort of tingles your imagination. How much it really seems like seeing somebody's practice, oh my God, that's how you work. This is what you create. And it's halfway between a creation and a score. Mega inspiring.
I didn't get any critique or any feedback on it Wednesday, so I'm very happy to have you
Here in the woods.
Meditate a bit on this. I've been making lines as a system, creating systems with colors to set some relations with some of the words, and then the images to kind of work as keys, because when you go into that moment where a performance is happening, it's I don't know. And what if I just stand there and I'm no, I don't know what to say. But yeah, it is exciting to me that it's there. And then people can look at it and be it gives clues. It's kind of like a tarot card. There's images that invites you into a reading.
Because the residency is ending today, I guess there's also a kind of melancholia that I'm thinking about when I'm looking at this map, this drawing. Maybe this is being displayed somewhere, 20, 30, 40 years from now. This reminds me of the feeling of seeing scores of artists that I really love, from yesteryear. So I'm also thinking about this as an archival object. So just how this plays out to future eyes, how they think about your body at this moment in time. will you be thinking about these words when you're 70, when you're 60? Yeah, and how all maps carry forgotten worlds. Maps become kind of fiction with time, as we know with like the maps of Europe.
Yeah.
So this will be fiction at some point.
The true production I'm making is like this production of just like these sketches and drawings and attempts to what it is I'm doing. I feel like that is the more pure image of my practice. But thank you for reading the map with me. That was nice.
It was.
Yeah. If you're still here listening, thank you for being with us this far. Yeah, this is concluding our residency at PRAKSIS.
Bye.